Hello and welcome to Get the Table, a roundtable discussion podcast with myself, Michael Sidgwick, and fellow Dudley boy, Michael Hamflett, where we're going to delve into the fumbles and successes of CM Punk's return. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure to subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube for daily wrestling podcasts where we preview and review Raw, SmackDown, the show formerly known as NXT 2.0, Dynamite, Collision, pay-per-views, premium live events. We have roundtable discussions just like this one. We answer your wrestling questions with question and answer time. We have wrestler interviews on occasion, many still filtering through from WrestleMania weekend. We also host a roundup of the week complete with a bloody good quiz, of course, on WrestleCulture. So we're here today, to discuss whether we're getting tribal. Yeah, WWE versus AEW. Who booked CM Punk better? Michael Hamflett, what sparked this podcast today?
Well, you're not going to believe this, Sidge, but discussion around CM Punk sparked quite a lot of debate on X. But it came, I think, from a good place, from a post by at Chandran the Man, who noticed the date ticking over and basically said, CM Punk spent about 2 years in AEW, and it's been nearly 2 years since he returned to WWE. This is where he might have gone wrong. Without bias, which run was better? Now, naturally, this tweet did 2.4 million views, 537 shares, the whole lot, 5,500 likes, and like loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of comments. You can't approach this without bias. Of course you can't, and we're not going to do that here. But as we sort of spotted talking points before that have popped off online, it's fun, I guess, to like bat stuff back and forth over a longer form conversation rather than, as you pointed out, a tweet that somehow does not account for every single opinion of every human in the world.
Yes.
So yeah.
Have you considered this? No.
The timescales are becoming the same. What's interesting is, like, if people like this and people enjoy the debate and the longer form and, you know, have their own opinions that they can, like, let us know in the comments below, it probably extends out to a number of people.
Cody,
at some point, whether I like it or not, Alistair Black, Jade Cargill, there are loads. Ultimately, it's because we've had 6 years of the competition now and there's been enough crossover, but CM Punk is, of course, always a talking point, always a lightning rod. And realistically, in terms of his position, at least on the cards, like the joint biggest star to do both,
yes,
I would say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, Cody's the champ.
That's true. That's why I said joint. It means two.
Very good. Very, very good. But so how we thought we would do this is I'm going to try and chronologically go through the CM Punk run, capturing highlights, lowlights, all the rest of it, and then we'll have a chat, and then Hamflett will go through the WWE side, and then we'll try and reach a conclusion. So without further ado, CM Punk arrives in AEW on, of all shows, Rampage, a bespoke special called The First Dance, riffing on The Last Dance, a very popular Chicago Bulls-based Netflix documentary. But before that, the Fightful Select report that CM Punk is in negotiations to return to wrestling. It becomes very obvious very quickly that it's AEW, not WWE, and they start having so much fun with this, building up the anticipation on AEW TV. Like, the night maybe the report drops, it feels very calculated in the best way. Darby Allin cuts a promo backstage and says something to the effect, I'm paraphrasing, of, like, if you want to come to AEW, you've got to be the best. I consider myself the best in the world. He's basically acting as the avatar, like the gatekeeper of AEW, if you like. And he says you can come here and you can think you're great, you're not, until you step through here. Even if, down the lens, I've got a bit of goosebumps thinking about it, even if you think you are the best in the world. Camera cuts to the crowd, CM Punk chants. The ink on this contract is drier than Triple H's NXT at the time. I remember saying that. It was very funny. Then we get the Elite of all people, considering how the story goes, also doing the Easter eggs and having fun, and they're doing basketball backstage. Then they even do a Space Jam entrance, which might be yet another link. Basically, it's a viral marketing campaign.
Kenny Omega's Cookie Monster t-shirt.
Yeah, he's got the Cookie Monster t-shirt. It's a very, very cool marketing campaign of, we're not telling you, but we're telling you. We want the rating. We want to tell you. We're not doing a surprise debut. That would have been stupid. But we're all but telling you he's here. So you get the massive pop and the tiny bit of suspense and the anxiety. Comes, first dance, Rampage, cuts this incredible, heartfelt promo on a stage that in that moment feels like it was erected for the exact purpose of him coming in. It's as if they'd gone, all these factors had converged, and this really didn't do AEW any favors in the long run, but it was as if so many factors had emerged. WWE's ongoing decline, thus proving CM Punk correct. Literally changing the world. Not from a couch in Chicago, not going back to Raw, but from being the elite, New Japan, ROH, the incredible business they did, the mega match between Jericho and Omega following the Omega-Okada match that really, really brought into focus. Hang on, because it's on the Wrestle Kingdom stage and because it's the best match ever, wrestling can be bigger, better, and as big as WWE outside of WWE. Like, what is going on? Wrestling's so excited. I felt like all of this happened in that moment to create a wrestling utopia wonderful enough to summon back CM Punk, who of course has left WWE under the most acrimonious terms imaginable. He has the match with Darby Allin at All Out. He wears the long boys, which I'm thinking in retrospect, it's a bit... You would never do that in the Fed. You would never do this experimental look that 2 weeks later shrugs, goes, they didn't suit us, whatever, and then he brings them back on occasion. That mischievous CM Punk business, but he was... and this is key, kind of allowed to be that mischievous CM Punk, instant top star in the company. It's indulgent, but why not indulge CM Punk when he's a goddamn pro wrestling genius? As he illustrates on night one, All Out, it's such an unbelievable introductory match because there's no finisher spam. It's wild what becomes of CM Punk and in the Seth Rollins matches because it's such a pure pro wrestling match. Built on strategy and error and overconfidence, and Punk delighted at what a wise veteran he is, but you're in there with the best. Darby Allin can cradle you if you're going to sit up from the coffin drop. You're with some smart young guys who can push you. He then goes on a series of matches as old man sweat-soaked Punk. This annoys some people who don't have the patience. Even though it's the sports-oriented storytelling that they want. He racks up victories against Matt Sydal on Rampage. Oh. Great little match. Powerhouse Hobbs on Rampage, not wonderful, but the idea is even when he's wrestling, I don't know, QT Marshall, it's still great to see CM Punk.
Introduces the power slam.
Yes, the body slam.
The body slam is the biggest pop of the match.
Yeah.
Back into his weekly storytelling.
Which you could argue is the first flex of, don't have to do these destroyers, that first evidence of this.
The difference.
Well, this hitherto unseen... I'm where the big boys play. I'm an all-pro CM Punk. Not this disruptor, not this guy who, the very classically minded CM Punk, who kind of shocks people with how old school he is. I don't need, these ridiculous Canadian destroyers. And I like the little idea of, people use aprons for moves now. I'll do a body slam on the apron.
Yeah.
Like, he's just adjusting to modern wrestling, but at the same time... kind of stressing that he's kind of above it. Maybe a first bit of evidence in that culture war that he has with the elite and all the rest of it. He then gets his first bit of serious business. Weirdly, I think if you look at that old Tony Khan leaked Full Gear 2021 thing, it was meant to be CM Punk Wardlow building, of course, to CM Punk MJF. But he actually ends up working Eddie Kingston at Full Gear. The very best version. I often say there's a good and bad version of everything. I never thought that would extend to backstage promo interruptions, but CM Punk on Rampage is meant to cut a promo. And then Eddie Kingston, devastated and angry at the loss to Bryan Danielson, is shouting out of frame. And then he's so close to the scene, close to CM Punk, and he's just irate. He will not stop that mouth running that Tony Schiavone says to Punk, sorry, we've run out of time. And Eddie Kingston has just impeded CM Punk. They have this face-to-face where it's like same old Eddie Kingston, unprofessional, leading to this unbelievable promo on Rampage exchange where Eddie Kingston, a genius, knows how closely related sarcasm is to anger. It usually precedes an outburst. He's sarcastic and he's angry, and then he unhinges his jaw like a snake and wants to eat CM Punk's head. That's how pissed off he is. They then, at Full Gear 2021, have the most refreshing, funny, empty the tank brawl I've ever seen in my life. It was unbelievable. That was the moment. I was always I love this Punk thing, and I know for a fact he's going to have a grudge feud soon. He even teases it on night one, saying, you'll see the old CM Punk. He's basically saying, I'm going to have a grudge feud. It's going to be great. Just relax. That's the first instance of, not only was this been wonderful, this is legendary stuff, this CM Punk run. He then pretty much immediately transitions into one of the very best professional wrestling storylines of all time with MJF. The level of detail in which is unbelievable. They begin by CM Punk interrupts MJF. The whole idea is, I think you're the best heel, but it's me. We're going to have a feud. I'm just testing you out. Handshake, nah, I'm all right. And CM Punk walks out. He doesn't realize that he devastates MJF here because MJF will later reveal that he got into wrestling, not into wrestling, he decided to become a pro wrestler when he saw a photo of Bryan and Punk shaking hands. And that's only revealed months later in between.
Which is real. As we
it's
see
real.
the Facebook
It's real.
posts.
It's real.
Yep.
It delves into the realm of parasocial relationships, celebrity fixation, it's so profound for pro wrestling, what it means to be a bad person, how people become bad, can people be redeemed, the wonderful level of detail when they're talking about Piper and Valentine, Piper, who's the biggest Piper fan, that leads to the dog collar, will you be my Valentine? Beautiful
it exists
foreshadowing.
in service of the Wardlow babyface escape from MJF.
Oh, of course. There's so much detail and plotting, and it's everything to everybody. They have the two matches, one on TV that goes 40 minutes, one at Revolution. It's absolutely brilliant. And then, in the meantime, there's the business. There is the idea circulated around the AEW locker room that CM Punk might have been responsible for Colt Cabana being banished to Ring of Honor. In the meantime, Johnny Ace gets Colt Cabana's AEW producer gig. That doesn't help matters at all. If
Ace
Steel.
Steel.
Ace
Ace
Steel.
Steel, yeah.
Who did I say?
Johnny Ace.
All right. No, definitely.
Punk would never be anywhere near that bad.
No. Then there's the Workers' Rights Hangman Page promo.
Yeah.
In the meantime...
Because the MJF Punk thing did exist. It's like, we're kind of head-to-head in the rankings.
Yes. When the rankings existed, they were explored brilliantly. Then we get this really riveting, good in spite of itself, but very awkward and tense, magnetic but not a great match between Punk and Hangman Page. In the press conference for which Punk's still playing nice, the world hasn't been set on fire yet. This will come the night after CM Punk breaks his foot by jumping into the crowd. Playing to the crowd, he said he would. I'm trying to be like really unbiased and professional here.
It's not working.
Then there's a lot of business with interim champions, and the rumors are intensifying that there's rifts all over the locker room. Punk returns, Quake by the Lake, following an unbelievable match between John Moxley and Chris Jericho, leading to the John Moxley versus CM Punk program based infamously on Rocky III, which CM Punk doesn't want to see because he's so sure he hates. He's always hated the Rocky franchise for whatever reason. And they have this awesome match at All Out. And then the brawl out happens. Could imagine an effing Target, empty-headed dumb basically, Tony Khan just sits there like an idiot for no goddamn reason. We don't know the story. We only know each side. But basically, it's either, I remember tweeting this, it's Jack Nicholson. It's either The Shining, where the Young Bucks break open the door maniacally, or it's as good as it gets because Kenny Omega's got the dog. We don't know. It's a fight. It's brawl out, all ground. CM Punk is then suspended indefinitely, vanishes, brought back to Spearhead Collision, where basically it goes from this wonderful, it's just nice to see CM Punk, to see him nice start, to seminal after seminal after seminal after... Is this Hangman Page stuff good? Do I even get the story too? Is this John Moxley stuff even good? The match is great. It was already declining in quality from Kingston and MJF to Page and Moxley, in my opinion. But then Collision happens. These matches are very, very long. He parades himself as a real world champion because he never lost it, even though there are no firm plans for those titles to be unified. It's all very much... Left hand doesn't want to know what the right hand's doing because that would require Tony Khan to make a decision. It's a total and complete mess. In the meantime, there's still some cool stuff. CM Punk versus Satoshi Kojima at Forbidden Door 2023 is absolutely incredible. Then you get the best 3.5-star match ever at Wembley Stadium.
There's a Ricky Starks project. He's completed by Bryan that was started by Punk.
Yeah, much better completion by Bryan Danielson. I mean, that match is unbelievable.
Yeah, that match is unbelievable. But I think there was a lot of work done in a very short amount of time as a way for Punk to show, I'm going to watch me make a star. And he kind of almost did it.
So Collision, there are people who contend to this day that Collision was an absolutely brilliant TV wrestling show. I think it's overstated. I think it was more stripped back. I think it was quite refreshing, but I thought, honestly, a lot of the matches were long for long's sake, and there wasn't an amount of spark. And then once you watch that Collision and realize where CM Punk went, you think, all of this is making a shocking amount of sense. It's quite Levesque-coded Collision, realistically. And then a lot of the matches just happened. It
was a one-star show.
It's a one-star
you would tune in for CM Punk. He proved his worth.
And all the rest of a lot of the other people on there, like Miro, Andrade, you knew they weren't long for AEW. You knew it was a gig to them. So you can't really, the stars of AEW. No, they're the stars who are bound for WWE. And then All In happens after the best 3.5-star match of all time. Jack Perry, who I maintain, he just picked the wrong time. Like CM Punk on Collision is this rift with the Elite, has not healed whatsoever. There's an interest, actually, before I get to Jack Perry, there's an interesting tweet around this time from Kenny Omega replying to somebody else saying something along the lines of, I have no interest in recreating matches from the 90s move for move, which is a direct dig at CM Punk versus Dustin Rhodes.
Yeah.
Which is one of the many great TV matches CM Punk had that have been lost to time. But then Jack Perry, so CM Punk on Collision, post-show, cameras are rolling, but the cameras have stopped rolling, but they never do because everyone has a smartphone. Someone catches them saying, Hangman Page, they call you the Hangman because your action figures are unsold and they're still in the hangers. I think it's funny. I love Hangman Page, and I think that's quite funny. Jack Perry is obviously listening to the Elite say he's a little dickhead. CM Punk, not Jack Perry. Just has that pressure cooker of, I'm going to erupt. Wants to use real glass. CM Punk says no, apparently. And then they have a fight, and then it's all over. He gets fired.
Yes.
You know what? Do the WWE chronology, and then we'll do the conclusion at the end, I think.
Okay.
Toss it back and forth.
Yeah. So the summer is spent with various rumors swirling around what CM Punk could do because he's released with Cause, which obviously has its own, discussion and controversy around it, but it does mean that he's free to sign, and the Survivor Series looms in November in Chicago. There is one thing that people sometimes forget, which is in that time, and I think it was the Cauliflower Alley, but he was inducted into a Wrestling Hall of Fame in the summer. In between, it was like a week, maybe 2 weeks after he was, he's always a lightning rod, but this was really soon after he was released with Cause from AEW. And it's one of the first points where it's like, is the unthinkable thinkable? Because he does this speech, and it's saying, but he's such an amazing orator, and yet throughout discussing some of the moments in his career, he's very careful to mention specific WWE names. He spots people in the audience that are wrestlers that have just come to meet one another. Bradshaw sticks out for some reason, but there were others. And it was I see John Bradshaw Layfield here tonight. I remember when he said this to me, and it's it's odd that he's naming a lot of these people that have got more association with WWE than, for example, Ring of Honor.
Yeah, sorry. In the meantime, he's visited Raw.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, he's visited Raw.
Yeah, and
was
TNA.
That before Collision?
It was before Collision. Yeah. It was in the March, April, because Vince McMahon wanted him out of the building. Yeah. But in the meantime, while he was there, he made amends with The Miz. It was one of those weird things that happened.
Yeah,
it was just in Chicago. All I'm saying is it was just in Chicago.
Yeah.
He turns up at Raw. He turns up at TNA. This is because people are thinking, well, he's done with AEW. There was various discussions.
Goes to a New Japan show as well.
Yes. There was a point where there was rumors he was going to appear at the Collision upfronts that was going to feature him and Chris Jericho sat next to each other. That was supposed to be this big. Everything's fine.
I know this is not relevant. We're talking about the booking and all the rest of it. It's just I'm just remembering. Not remember when was Collision even happening with Punk? Remember the rumors of, because obviously the hired arena, was it the United Center again?
Yeah,
for the Collision debut.
Yes.
Remember when they said, "Oh man, I have to do it in Daly's place."
Yeah.
Without Punk, we're not doing it.
Yeah, we can't run that building. Yeah. The rumors start to swirl because the Survivor Series is quite neatly placed at the Allstate, and obviously that would be the place to bring him back. And it happens. Obviously, it's one of the great returns. It's sort of quite a nice sequel to The First Dance in many respects, because whilst I wouldn't say, and nobody in good faith would argue that it's as momentous, because that Rampage return is one of those kind of checkpoint moments in wrestling history. It's close because it's CM Punk returning to WWE, which is almost as wild as him returning to wrestling, full stop. Yeah. It's the closest I think you're going to get to somebody simply returning to a company. So he comes back 20 pounds bigger. He looks awesome, as opposed to how he did in that 3.5-star match. He looked great, but you are looking at WWE superstar ready CM Punk. So there is the sense that like, maybe this was on the cards.
Bit more professional. If you compare his physique in the Fed to the long boys in AEW, you know.
He understands the superstar polish. To my mind, as I've said a million different times for a million different reasons, I've always felt the best Punk is WWE superstar CM Punk. But he's going to give this another go when nobody thought he would. He enters, before the Royal Rumble, which he enters, which falls really neatly 10 years after he left, after the Royal Rumble, of course, where he was pulled out by School Trousers Kane. They are very careful with his usage. He doesn't wrestle other than a house show match against Dominic Mysterio. But you have no reason to believe that he's carrying any injuries. It seems like he's had at very least any kind of recovery time from any nagging stuff from the AEW run. But they do use him on television regularly, more regularly than you might think. They understand that CM Punk, face-to-face with just about anybody, is kind of captivating, and they give you teasers, as Paul Levesque is wont to do, of several different stories that can one day happen. He has an iconic face-to-face with Cody Rhodes in a New Orleans Raw, which I should have attended before the Royal Rumble, when both guys are in effectively the same spot, that want the same spot and want to win the Rumble.
Which is electrifying.
But in and around that time, he has his first face-to-face with Seth Rollins, who is immediately cast as a natural rival based on their real-life dislike for one another, and Rollins needing to be held back at War Games when Punk stands on the ramp. He also has face-to-faces with Kevin Owens backstage, when everybody knows of not just their own dislike for one another and the things Punk said when Owens was in Ring of Honor, but Owens' open loyalty to the Young Bucks in the aftermath of Brawl Out, with the tweet of him main eventing WrestleMania against Stone Cold Steve Austin in his t-shirt. Everybody knew the various points he was making with that post. So there's all these different face-offs that Punk has, and every single one kind of more electrifying than the last, leading to that Cody one, leading to the Royal Rumble, where, of course, he enters a great performance. He has a mini match with Cody as the final two. It's class. It's a teaser of things to come, or so we think, because it's revealed on the Raw after the Royal Rumble that he's torn his tricep off the bone. He's going to be out for, he says, around 6 months. WrestleMania is definitely out. That's the big headline. It happens in a Future Shock DDT spot with Drew McIntyre. So a narrative door at least opens here, because Drew McIntyre comes out as one of the many people that CM Punk has theoretically wronged in his past through his various attitude problems or differences with the companies or wrestlers, and delivers what has kind of become the defining line of his heel run. I prayed for this and it happened. And he kind of just leaps up as a star in that moment. Drew McIntyre goes on to WrestleMania. But CM Punk, with WWE, with that relationship brand new and seemingly both sides keen to look after the other, kind of realize that there is value to get from this. Often now when wrestlers get injured, it is simply a blanket disappearance and then a return. CM Punk understands that he might as well maximize this, and WWE do too. He remains a figure on television as sort of the straw that stirs the drink. He can't do anything physical, but the dislikes haven't gone away. He hates Seth Rollins. He hates Drew McIntyre now. That's a new one. He kind of is on Cody Rhodes' team fundamentally as he's heading into WrestleMania 40 to hopefully finish the story. So he's a babyface, but he's a disruptor, a real one, not like The Rock. Every time he's on television, it's a real feeling sense of chaos that even a better book WWE still doesn't particularly deal in. I'd call to mind the Chicago Raw, where him, Drew, and Seth seemingly all go off script, and the promo is better for it if it's the same night that The Rock beats up Cody in the ring. It's like one of them all-time shows on the road to WrestleMania. He is walking around at the time in this really like heavy duty. It's a Steve Austin knee brace to the arm. It's got a little twisty lock on it. He's clearly got to keep his arm like this. He looks physically vulnerable, but you wouldn't think so from the promos he's cutting. That takes us to the week of, I think, WrestleMania, which sort of does take us back to AEW a little bit, because he sits down with Ariel Helwani for just another all-time Punk long-form chat. They've had several going back years, and they thought, let's get the band back together and see where this goes. Goes a lot of places, including him speaking openly about what happened.
Goes to that place when Buddy Cope responds to it.
It does indeed. That was weird. What are you doing here, Cope? It's nothing to do with you. But he goes into more detail about the fight with Jack Perry, various issues he has with AEW. He doesn't really, I wouldn't say he doesn't hold back, because it is Punk we're talking about, but he's fairly stiff on them. He says, it's fine. I hold no grudge against Tony Khan, but it's not a company. WWE's a company. AEW is not a company. It's a guy with money, and it is what it is. Ariel Helwani asked him about the fight, and he's like, I'll talk about the fight. Here's what happened. And then AEW were like, that's not what happened. We're going to show the footage. And it kind of plays out broadly what Punk said happened, with a few tweaks. Obviously, everybody's going to tell their side. Tony Khan was scared for his life, and you're kind of trying to observe that and whatever. The footage gets aired. That does AEW no favors. So it's like the Helwani knock-on effect of that is probably like keeping Punk as a bit of a cloud over AEW at the time. But meanwhile, the clouds have parted in WWE, Sidge, because CM Punk gets physically involved for the first time since the Rumble at WrestleMania in, personally, one of my favourite recent WWE moments, a symbol of the boom, really. Damian Priest feels like the top babyface in the world, cashing in on Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania 40 because
Punk dust.
Yeah, he gets the Punk dust because Drew has gotten so confident and cocky in his victory over Seth that he goes and taunts Punk with the belt. Punk tears away the brace and reveals that he's actually nearly physically ready. And then that really heats up their summer story. There's Punk appears as a guest referee to screw Drew out of the title, does so again at Money in the Bank, and at long last he's cleared for their first match at SummerSlam. Him being cleared kind of opens the door for Drew McIntyre, figuratively and literally, as he then starts getting physical himself. You have several like sort of mini iconic moments in the road to Punk's first match back, the best of which being the night in Chicago where Punk has appeared unadvertised to help Cody Rhodes chase off the heels, but then because Drew realises in the building, you have the garage door reveal at the All-State where Punk's bloodied up on Drew's shoulders and he leaves him laying. We get to the divisive beads because Drew takes the beads from CM Punk, which CM Punk later reveals is something that a fan gave to him, and it's something that reminds him of AJ Lee and Larry the dog. Now he's back on the road, and it's just that one little extra bit of needle that Drew knew about, and he's like, right, this has got to be settled. But there was a third man in all of this. In the promos, in the match at WrestleMania, and at the Survivor Series, it was Seth Rollins. He becomes the guest referee for the match, and ultimately it becomes this, like, I like the match, but I understood the criticism towards it. It becomes this, like, over-egged, trying to do too much at once thing where they're trying to keep the Punk-Seth story hot for the day they get to that. They're trying to, like, emphasize the importance of the beads because they know it's going to figure in. It's the start of a trilogy. Drew McIntyre beats CM Punk in his return to the ring. So that takes them to we were all thinking it's going to be Hell in a Cell. That's 2 months away. But instead, they run a strap match where CM Punk ultimately gets a victory over Drew McIntyre. That's, I think, universally regarded as a much stronger match than the SummerSlam one. I think it's a better match, but everybody across the board seems like that's the one. That's the one they were capable of. There's the violence. CM Punk gets like the beads back, gets seemingly his vindication, and then comes out on Raw and says, like, done. I want to do what I was here to do all along, which is win the world title. And Drew's like, I don't think this business is done. Batters him, destroys him, bludgeons him, and it means Hell in the Cell is the only place for things to settle. This, I think most people would agree, is kind of the creative, and it turns out commercial apex of CM Punk's run, because traditional pay-per-view buys up for Hell in a Cell. People just want to spend $50 for the old clicker to buy this show, apparently, because CM Punk and Drew McIntyre don't headline, but they open Hell in a Cell and they steal Hell in a Cell.
They main event it.
They main event it, yeah. It's the titular match. And they bring it back to life as well. Most people are very happy.
It's not a Bad Blood match, it was a Hell in a Cell match.
Yeah, the stipulation. Of course, it wasn't called Hell in a Cell, was it? Yeah, sorry. It was Bad Blood.
So sorry, man.
It brings back the Hell in a Cell feeling and vibe of old. It's a bloody, brutal battle. And it's not just the blood, to be honest. It is the particular use of weapons, and it is the nature of the violence. They set a tone, and they stick to that tone throughout. Punk, it's a hard way, I think, Drew's blood, like big shot down the head from like an errant toolbox shot, I think it is. Punk blades, and when Punk blades, it always looks goated. The two of them are just drenched in blood. Punk gets the big win. The feud is over. It's really well presented in the weeks and months that follow, because you kind of sense the feud is never over. There will come a time where they're both heels, and that'll be fun to watch if they can, like, be in the same room together. But for now, they're just perennial rivals, and they can always kind of revisit it. Punk, because it's Punk, sells the recovery of Hell in a Cell and doesn't like disappear outright. We can mention him, we can talk about him, but he disappears off television until he returns as a favour to Paul Heyman in service of the renewed babyface bloodline in their family civil war, and they need a man for War Games, and Punk is doing a favour for Paul Heyman. Punk comes back. Him and Roman Reigns have some electrifying exchanges in War Games. Punk and Jey Uso kind of remind the audience there's a little bit of a bond between those two. Punk and Sami Zayn are forced to coexist for the first time, which again brings to mind the Kevin Owens stuff. Punk is ultimately integral in the babyface bloodline, succeeding over the heel one. Punk and Roman Reigns have to kind of agree to an enforced handshake of, right, there's going to come a day, but right now we're sort of all right. That pretty much gets us through the Christmas season and into the Royal Rumble build, where Punk has said, right, the Royal Rumble's got a few ghosts for me now as well. Like, I need to exercise these. I need to not get injured, for one, in the danger of this match. But my goals have never changed. I still want to be the world champion. He goes into the Royal Rumble, where he's heavily tipped by the bookies to be the favourite this year. Obviously, Jey Uso goes on to win, which isn't as much of an upset in hindsight, but it felt that way then because it felt all set for Punk because he is eliminated by Logan Paul seconds after he has eliminated both Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. That is the first point at which the conversation changes slightly from, they're not doing Punk for the title, they must be doing Punk versus Roman, to Seth Rollins getting in this. And immediately the news, the various news outlets, all of like sort of the regular names, start reporting that there's a triple threat happening here with CM Punk. It's either going to be CM Punk inserted into the Cody Rhodes John Cena dynamic for WrestleMania, or it's going to be CM Punk inserted into the Seth Rollins Roman Reigns dynamic. We see in the end it ends up being the Shield one. Paul Heyman is once again used. When CM Punk agreed to help the Bloodline, he did so with the deal that Paul Heyman would one day owe him a favor. That favor is revealed in the build and the run up to WrestleMania when he says he wants Paul Heyman in his corner. He does this to kind of be the stirring CM Punk of old, to rattle Roman Reigns because he sees him as the real threat, because in the meantime he's been having like a television feud with Seth Rollins that's rolled on, and he's thinking, I've got Seth Rollins' number, it's Roman Reigns I need to take down. I'm going to do it with mind games, I'm going to do it with Paul Heyman. He's also got, as a result of this match, his first WrestleMania main event, which has been nicely woven into the lore of Punk, because it's one of the few things from the Colt Cabana podcast that they can use narratively as part of the fiction. You can't touch the rest of it, but you can. The WrestleMania main event was out there, he wanted it, he got it. So this idea of like, he's CM Punk, dream liver. Only he's not, because he goes into the main event of WrestleMania and Paul Heyman turns on both Punk and Roman Reigns to side with Seth Rollins to take us to pretty much present day, where CM Punk is just about done with Seth Rollins. We can't quite get rid of it just yet, I want to. But it seems as though the next step is going to be Money in the Bank / something longer term with Sami Zayn. They contested a consensus WWE TV match of the year, maybe. Maybe not TLC since replaced it, but so everybody, universal praise.
I prefer Punk Sami.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, universal praise for this Punk Sami match on Raw, which was a competitive babyface match, but it clearly left something for afters, and it looks like we're going to get those afters with a Sami Zayn heel turn. It's, as we record this at least, May 2025. There's no sign, seemingly, in the end of the CM Punk babyface run nearly 2 years in. And if anything, the pops are getting louder. And the longer CM Punk has existed in this narrative fictional universe, maybe the more this new WWE fan base has become at home with him. And it seems as if the love is growing larger and louder than it was when he was more of a contentious presence. Yeah. I don't know, maybe that's a subjective thing. But no, I feel like as a fictional character, there is a different sort of pop that greets CM Punk than the first one upon his return. And he is, and this can be taken both ways, and I think it will be, part of the furniture again. I remember when he first re-signed, one of the few bold predictions I made was that CM Punk would see out the length of his first contract. And I haven't really veered from that. I don't sense that he's going to sort of disrupt anything backstage. One little note, and then we can kind of get back to it, that I didn't think about because it wasn't necessarily a narrative thing at the time, but it certainly became a real life one, is that he has made no secret of, if not wanting Shawn Michaels' job, being ready to be his right-hand man / the gaffer down in NXT whenever retirement calls. He's in his mid-40s. His body is,
late, isn't it?
I don't know, he's 40, maybe late.
46. 47 I'm going to go with.
You're right, first time. 46. So yeah, 46, but he's acknowledged as well with that, probably more miles on the clock than some others from the years when he was running up and down the roads as WWE champion, the Ring of Honor days, etc. He's been wrestling longer than you would think. He started young. The injuries have piled up. So the NXT job is something he's kind of made no secret of wanting. So if he's not outright a WWE superstar on TV every week, he's reporting for duty at the Performance Center. Yeah. It's certainly on the agenda as well. So it seems as if, as weird as it is to say, for the long haul now within WWE. Yeah. So yeah, that's where we find ourselves as of now.
Indeed. So in conclusion, CM Punk's AEW run was better. I'm joking. I think we should do this by match quality, face-to-faces. That's replaced the down the lens promo, really.
Yeah.
Angles and story. For me, right, when you went through that brilliantly, by the way, with CM Punk and how it kind of started with Seth Rollins, and we are now in the middle phase with Seth Rollins, I guess it just appeals to your sensibilities. I know that's the total cop-out answer to a conclusion, which was we were always going to reach. But you can make the argument that I don't like the CM Punk Seth Rollins thing. I think it's very, very uninteresting. It seems like the viewers of Netflix would agree. It's so much neater this CM Punk run in WWE, and they've managed to get there without even having him really sniff the title. Yeah. And I think that's a very impressive feat if you are booking, because the world title will take care of itself. You get the biggest star, and you can rack up any challenges if their star power is incandescent enough. And we saw that with a pretty past AJ Styles leveling up to have a feud with Cody Rhodes, a Logan Paul match. You know,
he's not even had a shot.
I know he's not even had a shot yet. They've saved so much, and that might be the key difference when we talk about booked. Because that's what this podcast ultimately is. That's what we've decided to talk about. In terms of pure booking, like whether you enjoy it or not, entertainment value or not, in terms of pure booking, which is making wrestlers appear to be stars and giving them enough to do so that their star power has lots of longevity to it. CM Punk has not had a shot at this WWE title or even the World Heavyweight title yet. They have given him a lot to do, and he's carried all of it. The Seth Rollins stuff is freaking boring. Okay? I am so sick of this Seth Rollins stuff. It's unbelievable. But the fans are still up for it.
Yeah.
The big problem in the run with AEW, and Nicholas really pointed this out yesterday on the Double or Nothing review, which is still available, of course, is that they went, and the ranking system kind of made this inevitable, as did the fact that Tony Khan was a huge CM Punk fanboy. Like, he was on a course for that title, and they give him it very, very quickly, and it created this division within the audience of, oh no, I've stuck with Hangman Page for 2 full years at this point, and he's barely had a run, and he was the main character, and you had this 2-year plan, and you're going to throw it away for CM Punk. And it divided the audience. The match was awkward. No one could even tell what the real feud was. It was a really...
Oh, God, the TV promos.
Can you remember the TV promos?
Yeah.
Even before...
Why do you hate him, Hangman?
Yeah.
You've not explored what you're angry about.
And then we found out.
And then we found out, yeah.
So in terms of pure booking, I don't think that CM Punk Hangman Page deal was very good at all.
No.
I thought they really laid on the... CM Punk is from Chicago. Real thick ahead of All Out. I love the squash, but that raw with Ace Steel was not good. Nah. Like, I think that my ultimate conclusion, if I'm really trying to be objective as an analyst here, obviously I would prefer to watch CM Punk versus, I don't know, QT Marshall over CM Punk versus Seth Rollins, just because I do not like Seth Rollins and I have to see loads of it, where I only got 8 minutes with QT for 1 week, you know? I think truly the peaks were higher in AEW, the Kingston and MJF stuff. But in terms of Levesque's very patented slow burn, I've got all the time in the world, it's so much cleaner, this CM Punk thing, which I imagine would appeal to your sensibilities and the sensibilities of WWE fans. So the best face-to-face, I'm sorry, was Eddie Kingston. But the CM Punk Cody face-to-faces have been great. I adored the pause ahead of the WrestleMania one, when he's talking with Cody, and went, "Are you my friend?" And then Punk goes, "Yeah." That 1 second of silence is literally more powerful than most wrestlers saying 100 words, you know?
Yeah.
Because he's great. I think when they eventually get to that match, Cody and Punk they might have the opportunity to eclipse Punk Kingston, because he got the match. We haven't had it with Punk Cody yet. But the Punk Kingston thing was electrifying. So the best face-to-face for me, Punk Kingston. The best match is tricky, right? Because I think the dog collar, while great, I don't know, there was a few moments of awkwardness with the chain when they had to step in and out of the ring. I wasn't as high on Hell in a Cell as everybody else, but I can understand why people would vote, what's CM Punk's best match return? Hell in a Cell, yeah. For me, it's Eddie Kingston, but I can understand the length of it, how refreshing Hell in a Cell was, what an achievement it was to make it feel like Hell in a Cell when that gimmick was thought dead. Angle, the MJF, I'm the devil, old man, just from everything that informed it. But CM Punk had some pretty ropey TV matches in AEW. Maybe Levesque's clever enough to realize, like, I don't need to wrestle every week, Phil. I saw the John Silver match made.
Yeah.
So we don't have to be doing
that. The bot shot lariat, wasn't it?
Bot shot lariat, yeah. So for me, like, even away from the fact that if I saw clips of, on this day in history, CM Punk did this goated thing in AEW, I'd watch it and go, oh, God, never really want to see that again until I can. And it feels like the clouds have been lifted. But in terms of pure artistry and pure booking prowess, I think objectively, Levesque has done it better.
He booked him better, yeah.
Booked him. I don't care for some of it, but when you think about how he hasn't divided the audience, which is some skill considering you've got a lot of competing baby faces, just like Tony Khan did.
Yeah.
And the 2 world titles help, but whatever. Tony Khan divided the audience. He created the culture war between Punk fans and Elite fans before it was reported that CM Punk in his camp were at odds with the Elite, you know? Don't think the timing was ever great. I think he was a little bit too giddy in terms of giving the title to Punk. He was a massive draw, but he was a draw without the title. Revolution was built not on Adam Cole versus Hangman Adam Page. Let's be realistic. Yeah. I know Meltzer has this weird line of where I went on last. Come on. I just think Levesque has nailed, I hate to give him, I'm loath to give him the credit. It's a cleaner story. CM Punk's obviously been on his best behavior, which obviously helps. He has way more respect for WWE, which is so bizarre, but here we are. In terms of pure booking, maximizing the most out of your talent, Levesque has probably done a better job.
It's funny, isn't it? Because like Tony Khan will adore CM Punk for everything he did in his career, but as much for sort of what he did in Ring of Honor, for example, as anywhere else. In a way, like when you lay it out like that, because like I broadly agree, but I'm not doing it in that like I'm the Fed guy and you're the AEW guy, because just to sort of cut a long story short, I think sometimes Eddie Kingston versus CM Punk is the most perfect thing in wrestling ever.
Yeah.
In every category. You know, we talk about Steve Austin and Tens.
It's the most relatable. I think it's the most relatable. I know people talk about, everyone hates their boss, and that's why Austin McMahon worked.
I'd never hit them, though.
No, I know. I think Kingston Punk had that wonderfully cathartic, go on and knock him out. Everyone has had a complete dickhead who they've worked alongside, but because you work alongside them, you can never really express it. This years of fostering resentment, and when this person finally leaves, it's incredible. It feels like the Hurricane.
Yeah.
It feels like the Hurricane when this person finally leaves. And I loved how short it was, because that sense of relief, I'll never think about that person again, but my God, I'm glad I hurricaned them in the face. Or I'm glad I got the hurricane that was just them just pissing screaming off and leaving after all these years. Just what a relief. At them
screaming and swearing in each other's faces.
Yeah.
Because it has reached the point where, like, well, they've done all the violence and there's still anger waiting to spew forth.
It's the most relatable wish fulfillment, and I completely get why. It's like people talk about hatred and heat and wrestling's missing it. Well, continue to miss it. It's a completely different landscape. They bottled that energy and they smashed the bottle.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
So like if I'm to pick out the last 5 years of it, or 4 and a bit years of CM Punk's return to wrestling full stop, I'm probably going with that, like in terms of a Desert Island choice.
Yes. Yeah. Same.
I'm taking that. And that's something that Tony Khan booked. But it wasn't exactly that CM Punk had a zone. But if you think about it, Tony Khan did book CM Punk rather than Triple H in this fairly, clean, I think is a great way to describe it. CM Punk has slotted back in to a thriving narrative universe of stars, found his place within them, and is now working to be at the top of it, which was no mean feat because there was a bunch of over people. That was a competitive time to come back into WWE, and I don't think anyone could just stroll back to the top of the card. But he Tony Khan booked CM Punk in like a series of territory runs. So Darby Allin is a territory run. Eddie Kingston is a 2 weeks in a territory, and it's the better, like they're in Memphis still talking about the time that Punk came to town for 2 weeks. MJF is the long territory run. Where it's we got Punk for 6 months. He wants to do 3 more months. It's Terry Funk sticking around a little bit longer. Yeah. All of them. And then Hangman is where it falls off, and Moxley is where it falls off because they're drenched in politics and ugly like wrestling dispute. You got them less in the territory days because people just move on to the next time.
Yeah.
No, I don't like that guy. I'm not working with that guy. Well, the promoters picked him, so off you go. Yeah. Like this is company stuff. Like the grim. I don't like that Moxley feud at all. I didn't like the squash as I was watching it live. Felt off. I didn't like the rah promo from Punk, in which I'm pretty sure
I've said at the time that heel promo as well when he was doing the Snow Angels. I was like, you cock.
Oh, the apology. Like the lines, the lines are amazing.
Oh no, but you meant to say it as a babyface.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you can't.
Like, what are you doing?
The dissonance was unbelievable.
He does what Shawn Michaels does to the Undertaker when he calls out a man that's not in a building.
Yeah,
you know, like ultimate no-nos, cardinal sins, that kind of thing. And he's getting away with it because of Tony Khan's adoration of him, and the
fecklessness.
The wedge is only getting driven deeper between the two sides as a result. He works at Dynamite once, and he's like, "I'm not even supposed to be here," which I know is like the Clerks reference, but you know what he's doing? You know, he's like, "I'm made of town."
Yeah,
like everyone's a hypocrite at some point or another, and he's just reveling in the fact that it's not him this week.
Yeah,
and it's a very Punk thing, but like you get these series of miniature territory runs until Hangman, until Moxley, and then ultimately until Collision, when everything is just mired. And that would be the only thing I would say as like in terms of our conclusion here is the way to or another way to assess this entire thing, who booked him better, not to look at the best, but to analyze the worst.
Yeah.
Like the worst of, I would argue, the worst of CM Punk in WWE alienates non-WWE fans way more than it alienates WWE fans.
The bracelets,
people hate the
SummerSlam
beads.
match.
People don't like the SummerSlam match. People don't like Seth Rollins full
No,
stop.
no, no.
Like the most, like Heyman's overacting. Nobody's claiming this is like a perfect
that
run.
Sit down, that
the Mafia,
the Borash sit down
Yeah.
cinematic
Like,
crap.
that stuff is like, it's going to alienate non-WWE fans. They're going to turn on.
They're gonna laugh at it.
Yeah,
they're gonna use it for points and
exactly.
stuff.
What's CM Punk up to? He's up to this. Like, look at the guy's eyes, man. Like whatever that is that people say. But that's CM Punk playing the WWE game.
Yeah.
Which, like, as a fan, I think he plays pretty well and always did. He was always having to play the game just to get his stuff in, wasn't he? He was becoming Jesus on TV and nobody was noticing that kind of stuff, you know? In AEW, he wasn't required to do that, but because he wasn't required to do it, bad things happened.
Yeah.
Really bad things happened to, like, and we lost matches. We never got Cody. We never got Kenny Omega. We never got Hangman
CM
Page.
Punk still
rematch.
hasn't had Cody in WWE yet. He still hasn't been one-on-one with Roman Reigns. He still hasn't had Gunther yet.
Yeah.
Part of that
but the
trade-off-
context is different, right?
Yeah, but I'm saying like that's like a good thing for the booking because he's planning. He's got like there's 5 years where he could get, and I know what the trade-off is. I know the trade-off, and I hate the trade-off. I hate the fact that it's Rollins, no TV matches, Rollins. But like, you get this incandescent, ultimate great backstage and on-screen story with CM Punk in AEW. If you're talking about actual pure booking, right, which is telling stories, giving yourself loads to do, and keeping a star, that's booking. Yeah. Keeping a star through your storytelling, keeping them a draw through your storytelling. Like Dave Meltzer makes this point, and I know what he's like sometimes, but I have a massive admiration for Dave Meltzer. I wouldn't be here without him. He says, like, there's a difference between good booking and good storytelling. Yeah. It's a rubbish story, but if you've booked a star to be on top for that long, you're a great booker. The booker makes the most money. It's like he makes the argument all the time. The same logic gaps exist in AEW and WWE. It's like it's ridiculously comparable. The best bookers don't tell logical, great stories. They keep the stars on top, and Levesque's done that.
I think I will say where it's because I agree, I do, and I can agree while making the concessions for the higher peaks maybe. At points in AEW. Like I would admit, there's a couple in WWE, but I would say you can probably find more in that AEW.
Oh, cool. For my tastes, I mean that goes without saying, but I'm trying to be, you know.
But I also like nobody's not going to concede that the MJF feud wasn't just that's wrestling, like all time of wrestling.
Better than Drew for me.
I agree, and you were living through it and knowing that it was better than Drew. You know, and really, 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 really good with Drew as well. Yeah. Great at times, but MJF Punk was great every week. Generational, exceptional, a lot. Like, so I think that's like that clears like almost everything in wrestling. Full stop of the 20. You know, you could have we could sit here and have a debate. That's the best thing of the 2020s and 10s and 90s. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's what we're talking about.
It was unbelievable
levels to that. But yeah, just on like, I guess to like round up like what is interesting now as we record this in May 2025 is that. I'd love to sit down and have this same conversation about this same man 1 year from now, because we are in the middle of the pendulum swing creatively. And CM Punk has dealt with bad WWE creative like before, And you would imagine we're worse creative than even bad Triple H.
Yeah.
Bad Triple H is never going to be quite as chaotic as bad Vince McMahon. No. I don't think. He's never going to have a summer of Punk again, I don't think. But he has had the benefit of coming into this creative boom period, and it's coming out of it. And you make a point about like Raw's numbers slipping, and Punk will wear.
So what happens when you put Seth on top? Every time.
Punk will wear that a bit, and he will start to sort of read the tea leaves, or have already been ahead of the tea leaves, and think, well, at some point I need to be this, or I need to be this, or whatever. And you will get to Cody, and you will get to Cody himself. These stars now have a different task than what they had 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and I'm fascinated to see how this continues to trend and change. If AEW gets really hot, and then people be like, I tell you what, it would be great if Punk was around to work Swerve. Or for the first time in a long time, people actually fantasy book the idea of a Punk back in AEW again, because the WWE stuff the wells ran a bit dry, or something like that. I think we're at like an interesting pivot point. CM Punk will keep it hot longer than most in WWE.
Yeah. I think Punk, in terms of pure booking, it's like a microcosm of that question of AEW versus WWE. How can AEW have these incandescent, not just moments, but these genuinely incredible stories, matches, and like, it seems to be the lesson over the last couple of years is like playing it safe and being almost defiantly boring and solid with foundations. Like, it's better to be bland with these amazing WrestleMania 40 scale peaks than to just be great every single week because you get spoiled by it.
Yeah, you stretch people's standards as well, and like,
honestly, it's better to be bland then good than great. Because if something's then very good.
It's like me learning to cook one dish versus you cooking for the last 10 years.
Aye.
Like, wait a minute. Sounds like not just put crisps in bread.
I remember there's been a couple of Ospreay TV matches, right? I'm thinking 4.5 stars. Or like a flat 4. I had one with Buddy Matthews where I thought,
that was the one I was thinking of.
It's not the fight of your life, but you're kind of wrestling. Like, you see that in Raw.
Yeah.
Move for move. Athletic execution for people lose their minds. But for Ospreay, it's you cannot be too good. You can't. And
that's why CM Punk was booked better in WWE.
Correct. But let us know your thoughts on all of this. I thought it was a very interesting topic. Thank you very much for joining me today, Hamflett. And thank you very much, Adam Nicholas, you beautiful man, for producing me. And thank you very much for joining us. In the comments below, or if you're on audio, you can get involved in the debate on X at WhatCulture WWE. Whilst you're there, you can follow Michael Hamflett at
Michael Hamflett.
Follow me at M. Sidgwick. Follow our, again, handsome producer, Adam Nicholas at
It's Adam Nicholas.
Don't forget to subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling, wherever you get your podcasts from, for daily wrestling podcasts. When does this drop?
Friday in the usual Dadley Discourse spot.
Indeed. So whilst you're there on your feed, Wrestle Culture should be available imminently. And if you really like some self-indulgent stuff that just sucks its own cock, the SmackDown preview will also be available. And until next time, we will see you soon.